Welcome back to Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. Still overcast, but the rain has stopped, and we are set for Cubs baseball. The Cubs and the Reds opening up a weekend series. Hi again, everyone. Part 2. Bob Brenly and Len Casper with you. The Cubs tonight go into action 5 games ahead of second place Milwaukee. The Reds are out of it. They're in 5th. They're trying to play spoiler. The Cubs have lost a season high 5 straight games, but again, they should be able to get the offense going in this ballpark.
Well, you'd like to think so. This ballpark is very conducive to big offensive games, and this Reds pitching staff, with the exception of Bronson Arroyo and Edinson Volquez, Johnny Cueto, they've given up a lot of runs this season. You see what the Cubs did through August 29th and since August 30th, hoping to turn that around quickly.
Yeah, really in both areas, pitching and offense, and even defensively, the Cubs could use to tighten things up a little bit. But on the road, the last 14 times out, the Cubs have won 13 games, scoring a bunch of runs. The ERA was very good.
Well, hopefully, if that trend continues, the next 9 ball games are on the road. So hopefully, the Cubs, we're probably not going to keep up that kind of pace, but should get it turned around here on the road.
All right, the pitching matchup, a couple of guys who've pitched well lately, Ted Lilly and Bronson Arroyo.
Yeah, they hooked up in a good old-fashioned pitchers duel at Wrigley Field the last time they matched up. Bronson Arroyo was a co-National League Player of the Week, was 2-0 with a 1.69 ERA in his last 2 starts.
And Ted looking for his first win against the Reds here in 2008, and working on a string of 3 straight quality starts. He's lost 2 of those starts. He'll try to get back on a winning track tonight.
Cubs baseball on Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you in part by Chevy. Want to win World Series tickets? Text Cubs to 28546 for your chance to win. Courtesy of Chevy. Midas. For brakes, oil changes, tires, and more, trust the Midas touch. Your Chicago area Lexus dealer, who invites you to test drive a Lexus today. Menards. At Menards, you'll find big lumber yards, big selection, and big savings. At Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, we want to give you the security to experience wellness everywhere. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Cadillac, Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit. And by Southwest Airlines. With Southwest Airlines, you're now free to be more productive. Visit southwest.com today.
Well, a good sight. The Reds are taking the field, and we're getting set for the first game of this 9-game, 10-day road trip. The first and only 3-city road trip for the Cubs all season long. And let's quickly check on their Southwest starting lineup. Again, they're trying to snap a season-long 5-game losing streak. Alfonso Soriano will lead it off. Ryan Theriot right behind him. Lee Ramirez DeRosa 3 through 5. Jim Edmonds is in center. Giovanni Soto, the catcher, Rookie of the Year candidate. Pretty good chance he's going to win it at this point. Kosuke in right, and Ted Lilly, the pitcher, will hit 9th.
And let's take a quick look at the Reds defensively tonight. Holbert Cabrera in left field, Chris Dickerson in center, Jay Bruce over in right field, Edwin Encarnacion at third base, Jeff Keppinger at short, Brandon Phillips at second base, Joey Votto over at first. Ryan Hanigan will be doing the catching tonight for the co-National League Player of the Week, Bronson Arroyo. I mentioned in the open, his last 2 starts, won both of them, a 1.69 ERA. That was on the heels of that great game that he pitched against the Cubs back at Wrigley. He followed that up with a complete game victory over the red-hot Houston Astros.
Now the Kia umpire is Charlie Relaford. The crew chief's going to work home plate. He's in his 19th season. Born in Kentucky, now lives in Florida. He went to the University of Kentucky and Ohio U. 71 degrees, high humidity. A damp forecast, but again, let's hope that we're dry the rest of the night.
Well, since you mentioned Ohio U, before we get the ball game underway here, I'd like to ask all the fans out there for a moment of silence for my beloved Bobcats as they go off to slaughter tomorrow against the Buckeyes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Here's Soriano to start it.
Well, if you haven't seen Bronson Arroyo, you're going to see a variety of arm angles, a variety of breaking balls, an occasional sneaky quick fastball. And recently in his good stretch, I've been told that he's basically pitching backwards. He throws breaking balls and off-speed pitches in fastball counts, and in in breaking ball counts, he's sneaking his fastball in there.
Swing and a miss. And 2 quick strikes on Soriano. missed that breaking ball, and 3 quick strikes, and Soriano's the first out. Here comes Ryan Theriot.
3 breaking balls, 2 big sweepers, and 1 sharp slider. Boy, and he'll throw that breaking ball, as I mentioned, from a variety of arm angles at a variety of different speeds.
Theriot batting second in the lineup. Kosuke hitting 8th. As Arroyo misses for the first time. A big leg kick. And a curveball at 70 miles an hour for strike 1. 1-1. That's in there, according to Charlie Relaford. So Arroyo ahead of the first 2 Cubs. Coming right back, and he got him. Yeah, Bronson Arroyo didn't miss a beat, even though the first pitch was delayed about 20 minutes or so. 2 quick outs.
Well, the short rain delay we had really had little effect, if any, on the starting pitchers for this ball game. They had not yet begun their warm-up tosses in the respective bullpens. So even though we have started about 20 minutes late, it has made no difference to the starting pitchers. A couple of Cubs that need to get it going.
And against a pitcher who's won 3 in a row. This 3-game winning streak for Arroyo started against the Cubs at Wrigley Field on August 20th as he beat Ted Lilly.
That's a perfect example there of what I just mentioned about pitching backwards. Normally in an 0-1 count, when the pitcher jumps ahead in the sequence, that's when he's likely to expand the strike zone with a breaking ball or throw a splitter in the dirt. That time Arroyo, with the 0-1 count, came inside with a fastball.
Boy, got him. He strikes out the side. The last 2 hitters looking. Theriot and Lee. Here come the Reds offensively against lefty Ted Lilly. Well, it is raining again, not very hard. We'll play through it for the time being. And now the Reds Southwest starting lineup again. They're in 5th, 23 games out. They're not officially eliminated from the wild card. They are eliminated from division title competition as Dickerson, Keppinger, and Phillips will go 1 through 3. Votto, Encarnacion, and Bruce in the middle. Cabrera, Hanigan, and the pitcher Arroyo at the bottom.
Let's take a look at the Cubs defensively, brought to you by Rico. Soriano, Edmonds, Fukudome across the outfield, Ramirez and Theriot on the left side, DeRosa and Lee on the right side of the infield, Giovanni Soto doing the catching for left-hander Ted Lilly.
Chris Dickerson is hitting 7 straight. There's a strike from Ted Lilly. The 0-1 pitch is rolled through the hole on the right side, and Dickerson off to a great start. He basically replaced Adam Dunn on their roster. Hitting in the 330s, on base in the 430s now, and he's slugging over 700.
Yeah, making some noise. It is 26 base hits coming into play tonight. 16 of them had gone for extra bases, including an opposite field home run a couple of days ago.
So the leadoff man is on base. Here's Jeff Keppinger, the shortstop. In a pretty open stance. And he takes a strike. The official rain delay was 17 minutes prior to the first pitch. Right-hander Josh Gear will face lefty CC Sabathia in Milwaukee tonight. And we'll keep you posted. The Brewers have dropped 4 straight. What a golden opportunity for them to get back close to the Cubs. but there's still 5 out. And the Cubs tonight with their 6th shot at their 86th win, which would surpass last year's 85. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Keppinger, the first Reds hitter to be retired. So 1 down with Brandon Phillips coming up.
Good start for Ted Lilly after the leadoff base hit. Comes right back to retire Keppinger, and that leadoff man is still at first base. Well, we talked about that pitcher's duel last time between these two. Bronson Arroyo went 7 innings, gave up only 3 hits and 1 run in that game. He did walk 5 Cubs hitters, but managed to pitch around those walks. Ted Lilly was equally effective. 7 innings, gave up only 2 hits. Unfortunately, both were leadoff doubles. Struck out 7 and walked 2 in that game. That was just a good old-fashioned pitcher's duel. You may remember that was the game also. Chris Dickerson struck out and the ball got away for a wild pitch. Dickerson was able to reach, and the Reds pushed across a run in that inning.
Brandon Phillips, the second baseman, got a piece of the ball and a bigger chunk of Giovanni Soto. Don't know if that caught his throwing hand. Looked like he was shaking his hand.
You hope it hit that shoulder pad. Yeah, that caught him on the back of the right hand. Man. What catchers are instructed to lay your thumb on the inside of your palm and then close your fingers gently around your thumb. Fewer exposed areas to break a bone. You may get a bruise on the back of your hand, but if you have that thumb sticking up there, that's when guys get broken fingers and miss the rest of the season.
30th start of the year for Ted. Again, 3 consecutive quality outings, but 2 of those have resulted in losses, and he's 0-3 versus the Reds on the year. 1-4 in his career. Big leg kick, the 0-1 pitch, diving stop. Mark DeRosa, bobble. They're going to get 1 and safe at first. I thought the bobble was going to cost him, but then I saw the throw and it looked like they got him, but no argument from Derek Lee. Call made by Brian Runge at first base.
Even with the bobble, the Cubs still had an opportunity to turn to because the ball was hit so hard. DeRosa dives for the ball. When he went to get it out of his glove, he lost it momentarily. Ooh, still very close. You saw Phillips really stretching out there. That last big leap toward the bag at first. Tough to tell if he got on the base before the ball was in Derek's glove.
So here's Joey Votto. 7 home runs. 7 out of his 17 on the year have been hit against the Cubs. And he hits a towering blast down the right field line. If it's fair, it's gone, and it is. Into the bullpen. Joey Votto has hit 8 home runs against the Cubs. And he had the game-winning RBI on a single yesterday for the Reds. And tonight he gives them a 2-0 lead. Well, the Cubs can't get him out.
Well, they might want to at least try to make him uncomfortable. I mean, when Joey Votto steps in against a left-handed pitcher and takes a swing like that, it's apparent that he feels real comfortable in the batter's box.
Encarnacion, the batter, swing and a miss. 0-2. Well, they have gotten Votto out. He came in at 364. But 45 at bats against the Cubs and 8 home runs, 15 RBIs. Ouch.
Our Belvedere going downtown home run replay. That was a fastball inside part of the plate just above the knees. And we've seen that swing from Joey Votto way too much this year.
Outside, 1-2. So the Cubs will have to come from behind tonight. Encarnacion with 24 home runs. That's a career best for him. And after an 0-2 start to this at bat, Ted now has run it full on Encarnacion. There's Jay Bruce on deck. Pulled to Ramirez, who drops it, picks it up, throws, safe. A couple of little bobbles on the infield have cost the Cubs potentially a couple of outs. That's an error on Aramis. And remember, he had 3 in one game the other night against Houston. So the Reds are still alive here in the first inning.
The entire Cubs infield stood with hands on hips staring at Brian Runge over at first base. Another leap for the bag by Edwin Encarnacion, and that time it looked like Derek Lee did have the ball in his glove before Encarnacion came down on the bag.
Another very close play at first. Jay Bruce playing right. Well, the Reds team with nothing to lose, and they have a lot of games left against contenders. And reading some of the comments in the local Cincinnati paper the last few days, it sounds like Dusty's going to pretty much play his regulars against teams that have playoff aspirations. 18 of their last 22, including tonight, against teams leading their divisions or the wild card or within 5 of the wild card. That includes 6 versus St. Louis. There's a walk.
That's a very fine line. I mean, you don't want to mess with the integrity of the game. You'd like to see a team run a representative lineup out there, even if you're out of playoff contention. But yeah, the other side of the coin is the Reds want to get a look at some of these young players they've called up from the minor leagues. Some of the guys that have been on the big league roster and maybe haven't had as much playing time as they'd like. Yeah, they really need to get a gauge on what they're looking at going into next spring training. So one of the tougher juggling acts for a manager this time of year when your team's 23 games out of first, but yet you owe it to the rest of the league to play a representative lineup.
So a visit to the mound by Larry Rothschild. And Lilly will have to throw at least 20 pitches to get out of this inning. After the 2-run homer by Votto, Encarnacion got on via the error by Ramirez, and now a walk to Jay Bruce. So 2 on for Holbert Cabrera, the brother of White Sox shortstop Orlando. Line shot right at Terrio, and it is a 20 pitch. First inning for Lilly. Votto gets him for the 2-run blast. It's 2-0 Reds after 1.
Welcome back to Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. Cubs trailing the Reds 2-0 in the top of the second. Carlos Zambrano is back with the team after having a very busy Wednesday. His wife underwent minor surgery, and he visited orthopedist Steven Grisler for work on his rotator cuff. He got it examined, finally got the MRI yesterday, and here's how Carlos explained the next path of action and why he got that MRI.
They say that I have to do the same thing that I did back in June. You know, they put the ultragram, and I didn't do the MRI because I didn't want to miss 3-star, because I know that I was feeling better, and then I don't have to do, you know, the ultragram. So if they put that shot in my arm, I know that I have to meet at least 2 or 3 stars like last time, you know.
All right, Chris, thanks. That's Carlos Zambrano, and again, if everything goes well, he could be back in the rotation by the end of this trip, meaning that Houston series. That would be excellent news. And I think his explanation of why the MRI was done Thursday. Makes total sense. There was a thought about the arthrogram, which would have put him out of commission for a while. But they did the MRI yesterday, and it revealed inflammation in the shoulder and rotator cuff tendonitis. I would imagine, Bob, most pitchers with the kind of innings on their arm like Carlos have some sort of inflammation and tendonitis.
Well, most announcers, for that matter. I mean, it's a common thing this time of year. The throwing motion is very unnatural to begin with, and a guy like Carlos Zambrano, who is a maximum effort pitcher, probably puts more strain on his throwing arm than most pitchers. But the news, all in all, is as good as could be expected, and ideally Carlos recovers well from all the tests and is able to get back on that mound when we get to Houston, and as I mentioned earlier, continue his throwing program, get that arm strong for the stretch run.
And if you missed the explanation on the pregame show, his wife had surgery scheduled, so it was just kind of getting all the schedules together and getting everything done at the right time. That's why the MRI ended up happening yesterday. This is out in shallow center, and Dickerson will catch it. And this road telecast here on Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you in high definition by Sharp Aquas. Mark DeRosa batting. Arroyo is sent down the first 4 he has faced. High in the air, pretty well hit, but not well enough. Wind is doing nothing right now. Flags are not moving at all out in left center.
And one of the few times that Bronson Arroyo has retired Mark DeRosa was hitting .500 coming into play tonight against the Reds right-hander.
So after that fly out, he's now 9 for 19 in his career. This is the 30th at bat for Jim Edmonds against Bronson Arroyo. He's 7 for 29 with a double and a home run.
There's a sidearm slider, sweeping slider. I'll tell you, the approach against Bronson Arroyo, when he's pitching the way he has been recently, using the breaking ball like most pitchers use their fastball, you almost have to approach him like you're facing a knuckleball pitcher. You're going to see a lot more off-speed pitches than you are fastballs. And when he does throw his fastball, he's probably not going to put it in a location where you can do much damage with it anyway. This could be one of those starts where Gerald Perry would advise his hitters to go up there and look for an off-speed pitch, because you're going to get a bunch of them.
Well, he looks very comfortable tonight throwing that slow breaking ball in any part of the count. He's thrown it for strikes a lot.
Perfect example right there. Jim Edmonds finally got a fastball, but it was shoulder high up and out of the strike zone away. Fortunately able to get a piece of it, foul it off, and stay alive. But that's not a pitch you're going to do a lot of damage with.
Full count, 3-2.
In my brief time in the American League with the Toronto Blue Jays, Cito Gaston initially was the hitting instructor, later took over as the manager in 1989, and he was a big proponent of that. Depending on who you were facing on a given night, what he's likely to throw against you, go to the plate and look off speed.
Little tapper here. Edmonds hustling. Encarnacion won't make a throw. Infield probably a little bit wet, and that worked to Jim's advantage on a swinging bunt single. That's the first Cubs base runner tonight.
You couldn't have caught it and rolled it out there any better than this. That's a fastball down and in. Edmonds cues it right off the end of the bat. Little spinner on that left side of the infield, and Encarnacion has no choice but to pick it up and hang on. We were talking about that the other day. Ball players smelling those infield hits. You always seem to find an extra gear when you might get a base hit at the end of your journey down that first baseline.
One strike on Giovanni Soto.
You know, the one guy in his Cubs lineup that figures to get a lot of fastballs, and we saw it in his first at bat of the game, is Aramis Ramirez. Ramirez, for my money, is a deadly breaking ball hitter. If you throw him a curveball or a slider in the strike zone, that's a pitch that he usually drives out of the ballpark or into the gaps for extra bases. And Arroyo went after him mostly with fastballs on the inside part of the plate.
You see Ryan Hanigan, the catcher, looking into the Reds dugout. Short lead by Edmonds. And that's off the plate outside. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Now, I should add, speaking of Carlos Zambrano and his wife, she's doing fine. Ismarie. We mentioned he had to take her to the hospital on Wednesday for surgery, but she's doing well. Soto strikes out. That's number 4 already for Bronson Arroyo, who looked sharp early. The Reds lead the Cubs 2-0 after an inning and a half.
Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Kia Motors. Kia, the power to surprise. Rico, move your ideas forward with Rico dependability. And by Nissan and your Nissan dealer.
We left our hubbies to see the Cubbies. Very nice. Bottom of the second. Reds got 2 in the first on another home run by Joey Votto against the Cubs. Here's a catcher, Ryan Hanigan. He's batting 8th. The pitcher, Arroyo, next, and then back to the top, and Dickerson, who started the last of the first with a single. Called strike, 1-1. I apologize for the technical issues with the pitch speed graphic, but it's up and working now. You can see how hard the pitchers are throwing on all their pitches. Terrio throws high. Boy, the Cubs defensively early on here just not in sync.
Well, it would be easy to blame it on the conditions this afternoon. Neither team was on the field for infield or batting practice, but the Reds are operating under the same circumstances as the Cubs. Aramis Ramirez looked like he wasn't quite ready for that ball hit his way, and that time Terrio goes to the backhand side. The long throw from the hole pulled Derek off the bag.
Still waiting for a scoring decision. That's been called a hit. And Arroyo bunts it foul. Having a pretty decent season at the plate. He's gone deep once, hitting just under 200. Not bad for a pitcher.
6 successful sacrifice bunts. He's also driven in 6 runs.
Gets the bunt down. Lilly is going to throw to first. He thought about second base, but then decided just to get the shore out at first. Again, they had the tarp on the field, but I'm sure the infield grass is a little wet. You might have to worry or think about your footing a little bit.
Well, I like the idea here. Ted Lilly doesn't assume he's only going to be able to get one out. He immediately takes a look at the lead runner. When he realized it was going to be too close to make that play at second base, he had plenty of time to get the out at first. I like pitchers that are always thinking a base ahead, trying to get the lead runner. You make a quick judgment on whether or not you can get that out, and you'll always have time to get the out at first base.
Dickerson extended his hitting streak to 8 with that first inning single, and he's hit by a curveball. It's a 2 on for Keppinger. This one really got away from Ted.
Just a breaking ball that never took the break. That was supposed to be the big curveball. Caught him right in the middle of the back. And not all bad. It puts a runner at first base now and an opportunity with the ground ball to possibly get out of this inning with a double play.
So it's Hanigan at second, Dickerson at first, and that one's lined over Mark Berry, the third base coach. Good job by Berry to duck out of the way. The home run allowed by Lilly in the first inning, the 31st he's given up on the season. That's now tied for the second most in the league with Aaron Harang, who will pitch for the Reds on Sunday. Brandon Backey of the Astros has surrendered 32. Deep drive. Soriano's back on it. Near the wall. Off the wall. Just under the 379 sign. Hanigan's going to score. Dickerson to third. It's a double for Jeff Keppinger. He just missed a 3-run homer.
Well, that's a fastball right down the middle. And you said it, he just missed a home run. That ball hit right on the 7 of the 379 out there in left center field. Only a good play by Alfonso Soriano on that ricochet. Held the runner at third base.
And now they'll just intentionally walk Brandon Phillips to get to Joey Votto.
You had to think about that for a minute before you said it, didn't you?
Yeah.
The way Joey Votto has swung the bat against the Cubs this year and in his first at bat of this ball game, it makes you scratch your head. But this is the percentage move. Once again, you load the bases up with 1 out in the inning. You give Ted Lilly a possible chance of getting out of it with a ground ball at one of his infielders.
Aramis Ramirez is on board for the Universal Orlando Chicago Cubs trip. Join him All-Star Giovanni Soto, Mark DeRosa, Ryan Theriot, Lee Smith, Hall of Famers Billy Williams and Fergie Jenkins, and many more. Fans will have unprecedented up-close access to the players who you can't get anywhere else. For more info, call AAA Travel at 1-866-YOUR-AAA or go to AAA.com. We'll see you in December. And when I say AAA.com, that's AAA.com. Right-hander John Lieber is throwing in the Cubs bullpen. Out of our camera's view, but trust us, he is playing catch out there. 1-0 on Joey Votto. Bases loaded, a run in for the Reds, who lead 3-0 here in the second. Two and 0. Looking at the lefty-righty splits, Votto with 11 homers versus right-handers, 7 against lefties. A lot of Cubs and Reds on that rookie list. The kick and the pitch. It's outside. 3-0. A heap of trouble here for Ted Lilly. It's raining a little bit harder. Ball 4. He's forced in a run. And Larry coming back out. Well, we talked about it last time we saw the Reds at Wrigley Field and all the home runs they've hit against the Cubs this year. And we put the disclaimer on it, but those games were with Adam Dunn and Ken Griffey Jr. This is a team that's gotten younger and on paper not nearly as potent offensively, but they have jumped all over Ted Lilly early tonight. And the left-handed batters have done a lot of damage. Dickerson has gotten on base twice. Votto with 3 RBIs. Jay Bruce walked his first time up.
You said it earlier, Len. This is a ball club that has absolutely nothing to lose, sitting 23 games out of first place, 16 games under 500. Hey, if there was ever a time to go out and play stress-free baseball, it would be right now for the Cincinnati Reds. They've got everything to gain by having a good series against the Cubs and absolutely nothing to lose.
Now, can you explain why Ted has struggled so much against lefties? I mean, it's pretty drastic. He's held righties to a .228 average. Left-handers hitting .317. The on-base and the slugging also a lot higher for lefties. As he misses again, it's 2-0 on Encarnacion.
I'm not sure if there is an easy explanation. As you get a look at the splits right there, it should be exactly the opposite for a guy who is a left-handed breaking ball pitcher. But I'm sure that's something that Larry and Ted have looked at a lot of videotape. They've tried to figure out why lefties have the kind of success they do. And it's never too late to correct a problem.
In his career, the batting averages are pretty close. Righty slug a little bit better. Into left, and Soriano's going to make the catch. Keppinger will tag and head to the plate. And he scores easily. It's 5-0. So runners at first and second with 2 outs.
Normally you'd say, well, no big deal. Cubs offensively have been able to bounce off the mat so many times this year, but the way they've swung the bats recently and the way Bronson Arroyo has looked in the first 2 innings of this game, you do not want to let this hole get any deeper.
No question about it. Foul pop out of play. I wouldn't mind if it rained a little harder and didn't stop the rest of the night at this point. Runner goes from second. That was Phillips. Got a great jump, and Terrio's underneath. He's looking for maybe a little help. Nope, he makes the catch. And that'll end the inning. But after the Reds got 2 in the first, they get 3 more here in the second. Ted really battling the command tonight. It's 5-0 Reds. Hey, Cub fans, Cubs games are now on Comcast Sportsnet on demand. Comcast customers go to digital channel $9.99 and look for Comcast Sportsnet and watch Cub games on demand. Comcast Sportsnet, fans' best friend. Cub games on demand, not available in all areas. Can we have a do-over?
A mulligan.
First 2 innings have not gone as planned for the Cubs. They trail 5-0. And they're going up against a guy, Bronson Arroyo, who's been in a fantastic stretch and who has been very sharp early on. Kosuke, then the pitcher Lilly, and back to the top, and Soriano. Still raining. Breaking ball missed. 2-0. Ideally, this is how Arroyo would start against every Cub hitter, but early on that was not the case. He was throwing all of his pitches for strikes. That one in there, 2-1.
Well, and as you can see around the home plate area and the pitcher's mound, they came out and put some of that drying compound on the field between innings. Hopefully that'll get stuck in his cleats. He'll lose his command, start walking guys. Although it doesn't look like it.
The last 2 good breakers for strikes. Micah Hoffpower is on deck. It will not be Ted Lilly. So Ted will not even get 1 at bat. And it'll be a long night for the Cubs pen. They're rested. Off day yesterday. That's hit high in the air to right. But he was out in front, and it's foul. 2-2 on Kosuke. Just missed, and it's full 3-2. So John Lieber will pitch the bottom of the inning, and that's lined, and it'll be caught. Jay Bruce ended up leaving his feet. So Kosuke robbed of a hit. He hit it hard, but Jay Bruce was able to get it.
Kosuke with a couple of nice swings in that sequence. Unfortunately hit that ball too hard. Stayed in the air long enough for Bruce to come in and make that tumbling catch.
So here's Micah Hoffpower. His first action since he was recalled from AAA Iowa. What a year he had. This is his 4th stint with the Cubs. Excellent numbers in limited duty. 14 for 37 in his first 3 stints combined. How about these numbers for Iowa? Just 71 games, 25 home runs and 100 RBIs. He batted .362, 34 doubles, 2 triples. His OPS was 1,145, and he missed the first month with an oblique injury, and then he had all those call-ups. So he played about half their season.
Wow.
It's just ridiculous. And he was the team MVP for the Iowa Cubs. Not a big surprise. He would have been the MVP of a lot of leagues with those numbers. Speaking of the Cubs, their series with Oklahoma tied at 1-1. Busted his bat. Bruce is on the move, and he overran it. He took a look at Dickerson, and then he simply overran the ball, and Hoffpower will end up at second base. That is an error on Jay Bruce, a 2-base error, so a little opening here for the Cubs. I saw him took his eyes off the ball momentarily, and he might not have been able to relocate it.
We talked about the new players. Dickerson, I think, playing in his 21st ball game with the Reds. Jay Bruce came up about the middle of the season, and some miscommunication there. Jay Bruce took his eye off the ball just long enough to see where his center fielder was, and then couldn't make the adjustment to make the catch.
So an excellent catch by Bruce, and now an error. Big swing, 1 strike. Yeah, so Iowa's at Oklahoma tonight. Game 3 of their best of 5. A scheduled starter for the Cubs is Mitch Atkins. Swing and a miss. Derek Lee beat the Iowa Cubs last night. He's a left-handed pitcher, D-E-R-E-K. Unlike the Cubs, Derek Lee with 2 R's. One and 2. The pitch. Hoffpower trying to get to third, and Hanigan won't throw. Good job by Micah. He immediately made the decision to go on what is a wild pitch.
It seems like such a simple thing, but as a base runner, every time you take your lead off of a base, you have to assume that ball's going to go in the dirt. That gives you the opportunity to get the kind of jump that Micah Hoffpower did and move on up to third base. That ball didn't get far away from Hanigan, but he was on the move as soon as that ball struck the dirt.
Well, look out, the barrel of the bat rolling out near shortstop on that foul ball. Well, that's very dangerous. Fortunately, nowhere near Keppinger and the second base umpire Scott Berry.
Bronson Arroyo gets his share of broken bats because he throws so many off-speed pitches, and when he does sneak that fastball in there, the hitter's just never quite prepared for it. That sinker got right in on the knuckles of Alfonso Soriano and shattered that bat.
Runner at third, 1 out. The 2-2 pitch. Big strikeout for Arroyo, and he has a chance to get out of it. His 5th strikeout. 2 have come against the Cubs leadoff man Soriano. Now Terrio. Here's that last pitch.
Big flat breaking ball. Starts over the inside part of the plate, ends up on the outside corner.
Bob, we see Bronson Arroyo a lot. It seems like every time the Cubs play the Reds, Arroyo finds a way to appear in that series. But he looks to be pitching with a ton of confidence right now. It's easy to say because he's throwing strikes, but there's just something about him out there tonight. We've seen him drop down maybe more than usual. Throw that sweeping breaking ball, and he's had good success with it.
Now this is the 16th time we've seen him start against the Cubs, and I agree with you. He's got the best command of that sweeping breaking ball that we've seen. He will occasionally make mistakes with that pitch over the heart of the plate, but we haven't seen him make many mistakes with it tonight.
We'll also keep you posted on the big decisive third game of the best of 3 in the Florida State League. Daytona at Palm Beach, and the Daytona Cubs leading 2-0 in the 4th. Good eye, 3-1. Make it 2-1 on Terrio. No, it's 3-1. They didn't change the board yet. We had a 4-2 pitch in Detroit yesterday. Sean Rodriguez struck out after he had already taken 4 balls in the count. Now it's full 3-2.
How in the world does that happen?
I don't know. It's not the first time it's happened. Everybody back on the infield with 2 outs. The payoff pitch, ground ball right at Phillips. And Arroyo escapes. So the Jay Bruce 2-base error does not come back to bite the Reds. It's 5-0 as the Cubs will go into their bullpen.
Tomorrow, Mark DeRosa and the Cubs drop down in the Great American Ballpark to battle the Reds in crystal clear high definition. Coverage starts at Lexus Cubs pregame live. Cubs Reds in HD tomorrow at 5:30 on Comcast Sportsnet. Fans' best friend.
Sign up for a subscription to Vineline, the official monthly magazine of the Chicago Cubs. Vineline offers exclusive player features, team analysis, and minor league coverage. In print and now available online through the Cubs Club on Cubs.com. Visit the Cubs official website to order Vineline today. John Lieber back in action. Activated from the disabled list prior to Monday's game. He had been on the DL with a right foot strain since July 18th, which was retroactive to July 11th. It's his first appearance since July 10th. And that appearance was against these Reds at Wrigley Field. 2 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, both on home runs, as he faces Holbert Cabrera. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, Ted Lilly tonight was not good. 2 innings, 4 hits, 5 runs. He walked 3, struck out 1, and gave up the home run to Votto. And Lieber hits Cabrera. That's the second Red to be plunked in the last 2 innings.
Sinker that just got away from Lieber, caught Cabrera on the left thigh area. Yeah, I agree with you. Ted Lilly obviously didn't have his good stuff tonight, but there are occasions during the course of the season where you might leave him in there and let him try to work things out. But down 5-0 against a pitcher who appears to be on top of his game, you've only got so many outs to work with in a ball game to try to score those runs and get back in the game. And the pinch hit for the pitcher spot.
See if they can turn it here. They get one and they get two. That's a double play. Well, the Cubs defense needed that after a shaky start tonight. 6-4, 3-2 down.
Terrio to the hole. That ball took a squirrely hop right at the end, hit him in the heel of the glove, but is able to stay with it, get it on to Mark DeRosa, who made a clean turn at second base.
Arroyo takes ball one low. John Lieber likes to work fast. Fair ball. And that's a very quick inning. He hit Cabrera, got the double play ball, but then got out of it by getting Arroyo. 7 pitches in that third inning. 5-zip Red. Time for tonight's Aflac trivia question. At what age did Reds pitcher Joe Nuxhall make his major league debut on June 10th, 1944? Multiple choice tonight. Was he 14, 15, or 16? Joe later became a fantastic broadcaster along with Marty Brennaman. He was a good friend of ours. And the Reds remembering the old left-hander who passed away on November 15th of 2007.
Told the story in the past. I will forever be grateful to Joe Nuxhall. Every time we came in here to Cincinnati as a member of the Giants, he made it a point to get me on his post-game radio show because he knew it was going back to my hometown in Coshocton, Ohio. I will be grateful for that forever.
Nuxie, the patch on the right sleeve of the Reds jerseys. This is the old left-hander rounding third and headed for home. Let's see if the Cubs can get it going here offensively. Just one hit. That was an infield hit that went about 40 feet off the bat of Jim Edmonds in the second inning. That's been it. Hoffpower reached on an error and got all the way to third with one out in the third inning, but Arroyo found a way to escape. Pulled fair. That one might have just hit the edge of the bag and got away from Encarnacion. That'll be a base hit for Derek. I think that ball changed direction ever so slightly and allowed Derek to reach base.
Oh, the naked eye looked like it skipped right over the top of the bag. Encarnacion was not ready to make that adjustment. He's going to go over and try to make a backhanded play. That ball did change directions a little bit. Encarnacion just knocks it into foul territory. Derek Leon with an infield hit.
They're underway in Milwaukee. You mentioned CC Sabathia is pitching for the Brewers. Josh Gear for the Padres. No score. They're in the top of the second. The Brewers haven't won since the last time Sabathia pitched. That was a controversial one-hitter on Sunday in Pittsburgh. They've lost 4 in a row since. So the last 4 days, the Cubs with an 0-3 record, but they've added a half game to their lead because the Brewers have gone 0-4. That's a strike. A lot of other interesting matchups, including the Phillies at the Mets. Brett Myers and Mike Pelfrey in that one. And the Phillies lead 1-0. In the bottom of the 5th at Shea Stadium. They're 3 games out in the East. Votto's in foul ground behind first base, and Ramirez retired, 1 out.
Another good matchup in the National League. You've got the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers hooking up. Diamondbacks with a 1.5 lead going into play tonight. They'll have a 3-game series this weekend. And how about that matchup on Sunday? Randy Johnson and Greg Maddux.
Cardinals tonight are hosting the Florida Marlins. They just started. No scores. The Marlins are batting in the first. We'll be in St. Louis next Tuesday night. Bouncer to Encarnacion. Throw to second for 1. And Phillips just jumping over Derek Lee, not making a relay throw. So DeRosa with a fielder's choice. 2 outs in the inning. And here comes Jim Edmonds for the second time.
Ball wasn't hit particularly hard, and Encarnacion held his ground and waited for that ball to get to him. That gave Derek Lee enough time to get right on top of Brandon Phillips at second base. Really tough to complete that throw to first when you're about 3 feet off the ground.
The rain has gone away for the moment. A couple of innings ago it was coming down pretty well, but it has stopped. Well, we wish we could tell you that Lou Piniella's day started out in a positive fashion, but it has been definitely one of those days. He and first base coach Matt Sinatra drove from Chicago. They left at 8 o'clock this morning. Now, you made the trip here, and how long does it normally take you to drive from Chicago to Cincinnati?
It's right around 5 hours, depending on how much you want to push the speed limit and whether you stop or not on the way, but it's right around a 5-hour trip.
So if you leave at 8 a.m., you got to add an hour because of the time zone. You should be here around 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Well, they got here around 5 o'clock. They almost ended up in Cleveland, which isn't that close to Cincinnati.
Not at all.
Yeah, they got lost.
Well, you know, really, Len, it shouldn't be surprising, though, seeing some of the routes that Lou has taken when he leaves the dugout to make a visit to the pitcher's mound. It isn't always the most direct route out to the rubber, you know what I mean? So it's not really surprising that Matt and Lou got lost on their way to Cincinnati.
They were laughing about it when they got to the ballpark, and we should note that Matt was driving.
And if there's anybody out there wondering what to get Lou for Christmas, I have 3 letters for you. GPS.
Yeah, they were doing it the old-fashioned way. They just got out a map. He said he Googled it. But they almost ended up in Pennsylvania.
Well, it's happened to all of us at one time or another, and I can only imagine the panic that Lou and Matt felt when they realized where they were, how far away they were from Cincinnati. And fortunately, they got here in plenty of time. The rains, as we said earlier, kept the teams off the field pregame today, so no damage done.
3 balls, 2 strikes. DeRosa will get a head start with 2 outs. And Votto will play behind the runner. Here's the pitch. Ground ball up the middle. Phillips knocks it down. It'll be a single for Edmonds. He's 2 for 2. Well, let's get the story right from Lou.
'75, I said, you know, I know Dayton's only about 40 miles from Cincinnati, but we kept going because we kept following the, and finally when I woke up we're about 80 or 90 miles from Cleveland, Ohio. I said no. I said no, I don't think so.
Does Matt get fined then? No.
Who?
Does Matt get fined?
No, it wasn't his fault. I mean, look, I was in the car also, but I probably shouldn't have taken the nap.
Called strike on Soto. Well, it made for a fun story. And I think Lou's trip from Chicago to here is the last thing on his mind right now. He'd like to see Soto pop one and get the Cubs back in it. 2 on with 2 out. It's inside, 1-1.
Well, Arroyo will give up his share of bombs. 25 home runs on the season.
Popped him up out into right, and this will be an easy play for Bruce. That's it for the Cubs. They've stranded 4 through 4, and they trail 5-zip. Let's get the answer to tonight's Aflac trivia question. At what age did Reds pitcher Joe Nuxhall make his major league debut? June 10th, 1944. I think the answer is right in the middle. B.
Yes, you're right.
15.
Well, I know that because Nuxie told us the story that he had to take a city bus to the ballpark because he didn't have his driver's license.
It's been all Reds early on. They came in 23 full games behind the Cubs in the National League Central, but they lead 5-0. And they'll have the top of the order against John Lieber, who made quick work in the 3rd inning. He hit Cabrera, but then got a double play ball, retired the pitcher Arroyo. 7 pitches, 3 outs. And he gets Dickerson to pop it up on the infield. Left side for Ramirez, who will put it away.
Well, it's hard to predict what's going to happen with John Lieber on the mound tonight because it's been so long since we've seen him out there in action. But the kind of pitcher he used to be and probably still is should work really well against an aggressive young lineup. Throw that sinker down below the knees, get some easy ground balls, nibble around at the edges of the strike zone.
And again, a lineup that has changed throughout the season. John had that really rough start here earlier in the year. There's a base hit back up the middle by Keppinger. Going into this relief appearance tonight, he had given up 9 earned runs in 5 innings against the Reds this season. See how he does here against Brandon Phillips. The Cubs will try to turn 2 again to get out of this inning. There's a long way to go. A lot of time for the Cubs, but as you said, you have an offense that's struggling right now. And you have a starting pitcher in Bronson Arroyo who has been in a groove for the last several starts. Tell you, it does work in cycles. Early in the season, it seemed like the Cubs ran into teams at opportune times, maybe missed the hot pitcher. Lately, it's been kind of the opposite. They didn't avoid Roy Oswalt in that Houston series. They probably saw Randy Wolf at his absolute best Wednesday. And as you said, it's not making excuses, it's just the reality. Randy Wolf probably would have beaten anybody that night. It just so happened he ran into a very cold offense, and the combination meant the Cubs' second shutout in 3 days.
Well, and you back it up even further to that Philly series. Brett Myers pitched one of his best games of the season, and Jamie Moyer came up with a gem on Sunday as well. So yeah, sometimes you miss the guys that you need to miss in order to maintain your spot in the standings, and other times you have to bang heads with them and hope for the best.
Now, having said that, they avoid Edinson Volquez, who has won 16 games. This is the 3rd straight series against these 2 teams in which Volquez will not pitch. That's a base hit for Phillips. He's going to try to stretch it to 2, and he'll get there without a throw from DeRosa. So they're threatening big time again, and Votto will come up, of all people, with runners at 2nd and 3rd and only 1 out.
Well, if you're just joining us, Joey Votto got the Reds on the board back in the 1st inning of this game. Brandon Phillips on first after a fielder's choice, and Votto hit one in the back of the Cubs bullpen out there in right field. A blast. Put the Reds up 2-0.
That's tonight's AT&T delivery, and he will be intentionally walked. The last time up, He walked unintentionally with the bases loaded to force in a run. Encarnacion has reached on an error and then hit a sac fly in the second inning.
Well, once again, the numbers are not as significant for John Lieber this year because the amount of time he's missed. But on the season, lefties are hitting 100 points higher, 369, than righties at 269. Definitely a percentage move, and once again loads the bases, an opportunity for a ground ball double play to get out of the inning.
6 hits for the Reds. The Cubs have 3, each team with an error. Well, John Lieber back with the Cubs for his second tour of duty. Signed a 1-year contract in the offseason. Originally a second-round pick of the Royals back at 92. Swung on and missed. A ball and 2 strikes. He was actually a 9th-round pick of the Cubs in 91, but didn't sign with him. And eventually did sign with Kansas City in 92 after he got drafted out of University of South Alabama. Tapper foul. I said earlier this is the Cubs' one and only 3-city trip. They had a long road trip back at the end of June and into early July. That was 10 games, but the first 3 were on the south side of Chicago against the White Sox. Then they had 4 in San Francisco and 3 in St. Louis. But that's a big advantage when you think about a lot of teams. I think the Reds last year had something like 5 or 6 3-city trips. Cubs only had 1 in 2007 and only 1 here in 08. The Twins just ended a 14-gamer during which they went 5 and 9. But bad news for the White Sox. Carlos Quentin will undergo right wrist surgery on Monday. And they'll reevaluate him in 2 to 3 weeks. Not sure if he's going to play again this season. Kosuke comes over. He makes a catch in foul ground. Keppinger is going to hold at third. So Lieber gets Encarnacion and has a chance to escape, but he'll have to get through Jay Bruce to do that.
That's about as well as you can make that play. Number 1, to get over there in foul territory and make the catch and unload that ball quickly enough that the runners had no thoughts about advancing. Well, you could see how that ball skipped to Giovanni Soto, something to put in the back of your memory bank for later in the ball game should there be another play at the plate. That ball really hydroplaned across that wet infield grass.
A 1-0 pitch. Now 1-1. Boy, any sort of injury, even what could be considered a minor injury for teams that had playoff hopes, we're getting to that point in the season where you really worry that it could be a season-ending thing. Fortunately for Carlos Zambrano, he has just the tendonitis, and hopefully he'll be back in the rotation after this next turn. Sean Marshall will take his spot on Sunday. Rich Harden hopefully will pitch in St. Louis. Deep the other way, and a grand slam for Jay Bruce. Boy, does that hurt. It's 9-0. So the rookie Jay Bruce with a huge grand slam to make it 9-zip.
Opposite field grand slam, and Bruce knew he got every bit of it.
That's the 8th home run Lieber has given up against the Reds in under 7 innings this season.
Ouch.
No balls, 2 strikes on Holbert Cabrera. Swing and a miss, and the inning is over. But Jay Bruce with a 2-out grand slam to make it Reds 9, Cubs nothing after 4.
Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Aflac. Ask about it at work, and by the Toyota Tundra. Visit whytundra.com to find out why the Toyota Tundra is a great way to keep moving forward.
Fountain Square in downtown Cincinnati. Jay Bruce with a grand slam off John Lieber. Cubs will use a pinch hitter for Lieber after Kosuke. It'll be Casey McGee. And as Bronson Arroyo now has a 9-0 lead. A lot of air under that ball as Dickerson will go into right center and retire Kosuke for the first out. So here's Casey McGee.
Yeah, hopefully Casey's been paying attention over there on the bench or up in the clubhouse, perhaps watching on television the deliveries of Bronson Arroyo. Hey, for a young hitter, you come up to the plate facing Bronson Arroyo expecting to see fastballs and fastball counts and short, sharp breaking balls. You're not going to see any of that.
The pitch to McGee is low and outside on a breaker. Things were looking so good for the Cubs. They had won 7 in a row. They followed that up with a 5-game skid, and they're staring at what would be their 6th straight loss if they can't mount an improbable comeback. They've been shut out twice in their last 3 games as McGee went around. 2-2. Casey's looking for his first major league hit. He's 0 for 2. Born in Santa Cruz, California. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Can you imagine watching your first place Cubs from the front row at Wrigley Field? Now you can. Visit Cubs.com and click on the CBOE front row seats auction to bid on tickets in the front row behind home plate and along the first base line. The auctions for the last 2 home series, final homestand coming up against the Brewers and the Cardinals, are going on now. Don't miss your chance to be part of the action and cheer your favorite Cubs from the very front row. We want to welcome, and I want to apologize to Double-A pitching coach at Tennessee, Dennis Llewellyn. He is now with the Cubs and among the traveling party. And I mentioned he was going to be here the other day, and I called him Doug Llewellyn. I was thinking of the reporter from People's Court back in the 80s and I think the 90s.
Oh, it's too funny.
And he told me some friends of his heard that I said Doug, and Dennis was great about it. Dennis Llewellyn.
Just call him Lou. That's what everybody else calls him.
There you go.
Casey Kopitsky, the roving minor league catching instructor, also with the ball club. Nice treat for those guys that have been traveling all over the country all summer long, or in the minor leagues all summer long, to get an opportunity to come up and join the big league club.
Rehab coordinator Chuck Boffman also here. 3-2 pitch, and Soriano lays off. Ball 4. That's the first walk taken by the Cubs. It comes with 2 outs in the 5th inning. Belated happy birthday wishes to big Cubs fan Casey Toomey, who turned 15 earlier this week. A little bit off the outside corner.
Those are back-to-back batting practice fastballs at 76 miles an hour. That's not a straight changeup. That's a fastball grip that he's using. He just takes a lot off of it, tries to float it up there for a called strike.
What do we think of Bronson's hair tonight? Is it a good hair night or a bad one?
I think the humidity has played havoc with his curls a little bit tonight. I'll tell you what. He can have a ponytail down to his heels if he pitches like this for me.
Driven to right, but right at Jay Bruce, and that'll end the inning. 2-out walk, no runs. We'll go to the bottom of the 5th. Cincinnati 9, the Cubs nothing.
Time now for a Buick Pontiac GMC Sports Update.
Luke Stuckmeyer here. Keep it here after the game for Lowe's Cubs postgame live. Then later tonight on the main channel after our White Sox coverage, it's Land Rover Sports Night. We'll have Cubs and Sox recaps, plus reaction to Carlos Quentin's broken wrist, and the best high school football action on High School Lights. But right now, let's go back to Len and Bob.
Thanks, Luke. And again, with the off day yesterday, felt like the Cubs could maybe clear their heads a little bit after losing 5 straight. This has been by far their worst stretch of the season. Not an ideal time for it. They have a cushion in the division. Like to see at least the offense get going here late to add some momentum into tomorrow night.
You know, Len, we've heard a lot of comments recently during the course of this 5-game losing streak. And the Cubs are very confident that they have a good team and that things are going to be just fine. You'd like to start seeing some signs of it, however. We've tipped our cap to a lot of opposing pitchers who, granted, have thrown very good ball games against the Cubs, but at some point you have to quit saying you're a good team and start showing you're a good team.
Then you have to be thankful about the lead that the Cubs have built, because without that, the situation would look a lot different. The bottom line is you want to control your own destiny. You want to win this thing, play well, not worry about what anybody else is doing. Fortunately, other teams have helped out by beating the Brewers and the Cardinals and the Phillies. Angel Guzman with his 2nd appearance since coming back from Tommy John surgery. Facing the catcher Ryan Hanigan. Angel with a scoreless inning against the Astros 3 days ago. Gave up a hit and a walk, but no runs. Angel has a sign from Soto. Here's his 2-1 pitch. Derek Lee might have enough room. He reaches, made the catch. Little snow cone. Ball popped out, but he was able to grab it. And Hanigan's retired. Let's go go back to the Coors Light freeze cam. His first at bat of the night was in the second inning, and Ryan Terrio's throw was high, but as you see, he was already at first base. That's why the official score determined it was a hit and not an error.
And the scorekeeper's judgment, even a good throw there, Hanigan was going to beat it out for an infield base hit, which is why Ryan Terrio wasn't hung with an error.
The 1-0 pitch, swing and a miss. 94 on the heat. Angel always has been a hard thrower. Not a big surprise that his velocity is back. They usually say after Tommy John surgery and after, a year, that your velocity will come back, and sometimes it'll even increase, be higher than it was prior to surgery. Tomorrow, by the way, will be the 1-year anniversary of that surgery as he freezes Arroyo 2 down.
So many guys have successfully come back from that Tommy John surgery, and as you said, actually throw harder coming back than they did before the injury. We used to only half joke about this. They draft a bunch of kids who throw hard, immediately send them in for Tommy John surgery before they even throw a pitch as a professional, and then bring them back throwing even harder than they were before they had the Tommy John. Of course, we were half joking.
Well, good news from Jupiter, Florida. Daytona leads Palm Beach 6-0. If they hold on, they'll win that best-of-3 series. Outside corner strike on Dickerson. 1 ball, 1 strike. Well, Guzman still without a major league win. Made his debut in 2006, went 0-6, 0-1 last year. So how about a 12-run 6th for the Cubs?
That would make your first win memorable, that's for sure.
Get Angel his first major league victory. He rocks and fires on a 2-2. Dickerson checked it, able to hold up. Greg Gibson made the quick call down at third base. Well, you see, instant replay was used the other night. Wednesday, the Yankees and the Rays. A-Rod crushed one behind the left field foul pole, hit the catwalk. The on-field call was a home run. The replay simply confirmed it. The process took 2 minutes 15 seconds to complete. Not bad. That's how it's supposed to work. In fact, it worked so well, there are writers already saying they should expand it. Catch calls in the outfield. Was it a catch or a trap? Close plays at first. Maybe give the manager 1 challenge per game. A slicing liner to Soriano. The hop, the catch, and the out. And for the first time all night, the Reds go down 1-2-3 without a base runner. They lead 9-0. Bronson Arroyo looking for his 4th consecutive win in as many starts. Trying to beat the Cubs for the 3rd time this year. First time he's faced the Cubs this season at home. Beat them at Wrigley on July 10th and then again on August 20th. Facing Derek Lee as we play the 6th. 9-0 Cincinnati. 2-0 on Lee. Derek has a birthday tomorrow. He'll turn 33. Happy belated birthday to Chad Fox, who turned 38 2 days ago. Chad's still on the disabled list with ulnar neuritis in his right elbow. He and left-hander Rich Hill goes on with lower back soreness. The only two Cubs currently on the disabled list. Phillips was shaded up the middle, takes a hit away from Derek Lee. It's good positioning. Reds have the scouting report down on Derek Lee. Get Chicago Sports News Nightly on Land Rover Sports Night coming up tonight at 10. An update on the wrist of Carlos Quentin. Plus the Bears preparing to take on the Colts. Join Gail and Luke for Land Rover Sports Night tonight at 10. Only on Comcast Sportsnet. Fans' best friend. Are you going to stop by the new football stadium Sunday night in Indianapolis? Catch the Bears and the Colts on your way home?
I'll probably be tuned in on the radio, but I don't think I'm going to stop. Be singing "Go Cubs Go" all the way home.
There you go.
Some of the fans at Wrigley over the course of this 5-game losing streak have been showing their displeasure, and they're certainly entitled to do that. But I think more than anything else, it's the fact they didn't get to sing that song. That's part of the experience coming out to Wrigley Field, watching the home team win a game and then having a 41,000 person sing along after the ball game.
Well, I'm as guilty as anyone in just saying this team is fine. I mean, you look at the math, you start crossing off the days. The Cubs are in excellent shape as it pertains to making the playoffs, but it is an example of how things can change quickly. You had a team that was on a great roll, got up to 35 games over 500, and just like that, everything turned. And it doesn't feel good at all. Can sit here and say, well, they're 30 over 500. I thought Phil Rogers wrote a great article today in the Chicago Tribune, just basically saying that, you know, the Cubs are in, they're going to get in. Whether or not the Brewers catch them is another story. But I think the big question or the big concern, however you want to put it, over these last 3.5 weeks as Ramirez gets under one, is going to be making sure Carlos Zambrano and Rich Harden are as close to 100% as possible when the playoffs start. I mean, you want to see this team turn it around and get on a roll, which it will. It's just a matter of time. But long term, Bob, they need their starting rotation really has been the strength all year, along with the consistent offense. But you need your top guys to be ready to go when the playoffs start.
Well, and Lou has spoken about that all season long. As good as the offense has been, whenever you ask him about the success of the team up to this point, he talks about pitching and defense. And certainly, you know, a less than 100% Carlos Zambrano, a less than 100% Rich Harden, and some of the shoddy defense we've seen over the course of the last week is not a good formula going into the postseason. And the defense, more than anything else, is just a matter of concentration. You got to move your feet. You got to keep your eye on the baseball. You got to practice before the ball game. Get into your good habits. Carry them right into the ball game with you.
I would term what has gone on here recently is just a classic slump. You could say it's a team-wide slump. Ryan Dempster pitched well the other night, but unless he shut out the Astros, he wasn't going to have a shot to win that game the way Randy Wolf pitched. But at what point do guys start to press? I don't know if they're at that point now or not. And does that defense and some of the shakiness we've seen, is that an example of maybe pressing a little bit too much, trying to make the play that's not there, maybe having your feet move a little too fast, whatever?
Well, it's certainly understandable if that is the case, but once again, you get back to the things that the Cubs have done so well all year long. The patient at bats.
That's caught. Well, the good news is Arroyo's at 107 pitches. You'd like to think he might be out of there soon, but he's shutting him out on just 3 hits through 5.5, 9-0.
Stay informed throughout the 2008 season with MLB.com Team Text Alerts. Customize your mobile alerts, including news, game summaries, scores, and more. Sign up now by texting Get Cubs to 65246 or visit MLB.com/mobile.
A bevy of changes for the Cubs. Ronnie Cedeno now plays third. Ramirez is out. Fontenot takes over for DeRosa at second. Darrell Ward's in for Derek Lee at first. And Coy Hill will make his 2008 Majors debut. Look at that hockey mask. I like it. He's in there for Soto. And it looks like the changes are all straight up. If you are keeping score at home, just put Ward in for Lee. And right on down the line. Cedeno in the cleanup spot. Fontenot behind him. Keppinger rolls it to Ward, who will touch first base. Here's Brandon Phillips. 9-0 Cincinnati. 1 out here in the bottom of the 6th.
I think this is a good move on Lou's part, Len. I mean, it's a 9-0 ball game. Could the Cubs possibly come back in this game? Absolutely. They've done it before, but the reality is, you know, Bronson Arroyo has kept the Cubs offense in check tonight. The Reds have a rested and ready bullpen. And Ronnie Cedeno, Mike Fontenot, Darrell Ward, all these guys are going to need some at-bats. You want them to be sharp as well for the stretch run. There's an opportunity for those guys to get in there and get a couple of at-bats at the end of a ball game, play some defense.
Well, the Padres have tied it up in Milwaukee. It's 1-1. They're now in the bottom of the 4th. Again, Josh Gear, a right-hander against CC Sabathia, who has not lost with the Brewers. And Adrian Gonzalez, fielder's choice. That's how the Padres tied it. As Darrell made a nice play on the backhand, trapped it and was able to get to first base. So the first 2 outs of the inning, 3 unassisted.
Little one hopper. D Ward just smothers that ball to the backhand side and wins that race to the bag. 3 unassisted on the first 2 outs here in the inning. He's got a chance to tie a major league record.
There's that guy again. Joey Votto hits a gapper as Edmonds cuts it off. Votto running hard. He's going to slide in safely. He has a home run, 2 walks, a double, 3 RBIs, and in position possibly to score his 3rd run. He has kept himself in the Rookie of the Year balloting by simply facing the Cubs. Unbelievable.
Boy, and he turned around a 95-mile-an-hour Angel Guzman fastball and jerked it back to that gap in right field like it was nothing. He's proven to me he can hit a fastball.
Encarnacion pops it up. Guess who? Darrell Ward with a busy inning. So he makes a catch and the inning is over. We'll head to the 7th from Cincy. 9-0 Reds. Tomorrow night the series continues for Derek Lee and the Cubs as they take on the Reds in high definition. Coverage starts with Lexus Cubs pregame live. Don't miss the Cubs and Reds tomorrow night at 5:30 right here on Comcast Sportsnet, fans' best friend. Pitching matchups tomorrow evening, Jason Marquis and Johnny Cueto. Cueto had his last turn skip because of a posterior strain in his right elbow. So we'll see how he fares against Jason Marquis. It's 2-1 on Jim Edmonds. We're in the 7th. Bronson Arroyo in complete command tonight. Swing and a miss to make it 2-2. Bronson Arroyo, 6'5", 194 pounds, 31 years old, born in Key West, Florida. Made his debut with the Pirates in 2000. So he's a former teammate of Aramis Ramirez. Then 3 years with the Red Sox. And this is his 3rd season with Cincinnati. Ball 4. Edmonds draws the walk. .113 on the night. They have a pretty well-stocked bullpen with the expanded rosters. So we'll see how far Dusty goes with Bronson Arroyo. Looks like they're going to get some action going as Coy Hill gets his first plate appearance this season in the majors. He's a switch hitter, and he takes strike 1.
Solid numbers for Coy Hill at AAA Iowa this year. 17 homers with 64 runs driven in.
You may have read the story. We talked briefly about it the other night, and he hits one out in the alley left center. It's going to one-hop the wall. Jim Edmonds is going to be sent by Mike Quaddy, and the Cubs will break the shutout. Coy Hill with an RBI double. Finally, the Cubs fans in attendance with something to cheer about tonight. I'm sure that feels great for Coy Hill, whose career could have been over after a gruesome table saw accident in the offseason. He badly severed several fingers on his right hand.
And because of that accident, and you mentioned the fact he's a switch hitter, he's got tape at different spots on the bats that he uses from the different sides of the plate. His right hand is the bottom hand as a left-handed hitter. He's got extra tape wrapped around down near the knob to help him get a better grip on the bat. As a right-handed hitter, that taped area is higher up on the handle where his right hand is, as the left hand is the bottom hand. Just an amazing story that he's able to come back at all.
You can kind of see the pinky finger and the ring finger in particular suffered a lot of damage. He was working on a window frame project in October of last year when he badly cut the hand, almost lost most of his fingers. His thumb, the middle ring, and pinky fingers all badly damaged. He had to have surgery essentially to reattach those digits. Two and one on Fukudome. Coy actually considered having his pinky finger cut off because he was nervous that it was going to impede him in his comeback, particularly with his throwing. Three and one the count. Now it's 3-2. This is one of those little things that, you know, kind of the behind the scenes of how things work. We actually heard about this in spring training, but at Coy's request, we didn't reveal it. He wasn't comfortable at the time talking about it. I think that was the right move because it's such an incredible story. And I saw him doing tons of interviews this week with the media back in Chicago. I don't think Coy was emotionally ready to talk about it. That one's drilled foul by Kosuke. And I haven't asked him about it, but just as he was getting into spring training, I don't think he wanted that distraction as he was trying to find a way to make the opening day roster. But I'm glad he revealed it because it's such a great story that he was able to come back.
He had to relearn how to do things all over again. Actually, to the point where Kosuke is going to ground one up the middle of the field to Keppinger, no problem. If I read the story correctly, they had Coy hold a baseball in his left hand as if he were going to throw it. They saw the position of the fingers, and that's how they positioned the fingers on his right hand when they reattached them, so that he would be guaranteed he could get a grip on a baseball and make a throw.
So that's it for Arroyo. Dusty Baker will dip into his bullpen here in the 7th inning. Hanigan called to the pen. We'll tell you about the new Reds pitcher when we come back. Here's right-hander Gary Majewski in relief of Bronson Arroyo.
Majewski coming off a clean inning against the San Francisco Giants on Sunday. Struck out a couple of Giants hitters, but in his 3 previous appearances, totaling 3 innings pitched, he gave up 9 hits and 6 runs.
Henry Blanco will bat for Angel Guzman. That's a good way to get you on television.
That works every time.
Coy Hill at second, 1 out in the inning. Here we go. Fastball straight.
We've talked a lot about the expanded rosters after September 1st and the army of players of seemingly available to every manager in baseball. Henry Blanco taking this pinch hit at bat. Only Reed Johnson remains on the Cubs bench because of the mass substitutions that we saw in that last inning.
We got an email from George Avaliotis. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, George. Retired from the Marines, from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Says, would you say this slump is in some way beneficial, referring to the fact that while it hurts to watch, it's better now than in the playoffs? I've heard that theory that, of course, it'd be better now than in the playoffs, but I don't think this slump is beneficial to anybody.
I understand his point, and you know what a firm believer I am in the rhythms and cycles of a season. Every team's not going to be great every day. You're going to have slumps. You're going to pitch poorly at times. You're going to have defensive lapses. And the good news is you have to believe the Cubs are going to snap out of this with a vengeance. So I agree with the theory. Better now than later.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to ever say it's good. And I hate to just fall back to the "it is what it is" line, but it is the ebb and the flow of a season. And it hasn't been pretty here over the last week or so. But you find a way to dig yourself out of it. Broken bat floater, hit foul.
Well, we talked about it the other day at Wrigley Field as well, Len. I mean, I think what the 5-game losing streak and trailing 9-1 in the ball game tonight points out is how good the Cubs were up until that point.
They have not been in many blowout situations like this in which they have trailed. If it's been 9-1, more often than not, they've been the team that's been ahead. Henry. Blanco sends it deep, but he didn't get it. Cabrera catches. That's the second out.
Looked good coming off the bat. I think he might have gotten fooled just a little bit. Hit it out toward the end. Didn't get the kind of carry necessary to get it out of here.
Well, we'll keep an eye on the Houston Astros as they have found a way to somewhat get back into the wild card race. I think it's interesting that they're at Colorado this weekend because it was the Rockies last year who won, what was it, 14 out of their last 15 to get into the playoffs, including that one-game playoff as they beat the Padres to take the wild card. Well, it's no score in the bottom of the second. The Astros just 6 back of the Brewers. They're in 4th place, but they're only 1 behind St. Louis and 2 behind the Phillies. I would give the Astros a much better shot if they still had games against the Brewers on their schedule. They don't. That makes it a lot more difficult because not only do you have to win, but you need somebody else to lose. But they're not done just yet. Well, the way they looked in that series at Wrigley Field looks like, are they ever going to lose again? But it's the old adage. You're never as good as you look when you're that good. You're never as bad as, for instance, the Cubs have looked over their last 5+. It's always somewhere in the middle. In fact, Bob, if you pitted the 2 hottest teams against one another right now, it'd probably be the Washington Nationals and the Houston Astros. Ball 4. Soriano has walked twice. And along those lines, if you're the general manager or the manager for teams like the Nationals or maybe the Reds, who came in playing okay here lately, they had won 4 of their last 6. Got to be careful with your evaluations in September with teams that aren't playing for anything, even though you're playing for a job next year. On the other hand, this is a chance for some young players to make an impression and at least put themselves higher on the depth chart going into spring training next season.
People that have been around the game of Major League Baseball for any amount of time, especially the scouts who for a living they watch baseball, they evaluate talent, they never get too excited about guys in spring training or in September. Certainly guys can open your eyes, they can do some things that will put them on the radar, but you can't get too crazy about the numbers you see in spring training or September because of the thing you just mentioned. Teams are out of a race. They're not really playing for anything. Guys are just up there playing for next year's contract, and occasionally you can be deceived by what you see in September.
Outside 2-1 Ontario. The Brewers have retaken the lead. In Milwaukee, it's 2-1 Brewers in the 5th over the Padres. And congratulations to Jody Davis and the Daytona Cubs. They move on in the Florida State League playoffs, winning that best-of-3 series, 6-0 the final tonight at Palm Beach. 3-1. This has been by far the best inning for the Cubs tonight. We've seen some deep at bats, starting to grind them out a little bit as they knocked Arroyo out of there, and now facing Majewski.
You know, we started to talk about that earlier, Len. What is it going to take to snap out of this offensive slump? And you hope guys don't put too much pressure on themselves. I need to do this to get us out of the slump, because that's not what's worked all season for the Cubs. What's worked is, what can I do to set it up for the guy behind me in the batting order? And in a lot of cases that meant taking a base on balls. It's that old cliche about trying to do too much.
And they're loaded up for Darrell Ward.
I mean, the constant pressure that the Cubs offense was able to put on opposing pitchers, especially in that first half of the season. They rarely went down 1, 2, 3. The pitch count for the starting pitcher was always elevated early in the ball game. Consequently, you got into that middle relief, which is when you really have a chance to score some runs in a ball game.
Dusty has a left-hander Bill Bray ready, and he's coming in. Hanigan called to the pin. Cubs trail by 8. They do have the bases loaded here in the 7th. Southpaw Bill Bray will become the 3rd pitcher of this inning. And as Arroyo started it, then Gary Majewski was brought on. But after back-to-back walks to load the bases, it's Darrell Ward against Bill Bray. Pretty safe move by Dusty because Darrell Ward already came in for Derek Lee. One strike. There are a lot of difficult decisions managers have to make. That one was not one. Even though his team is up 8, wanted to match up. Cedeno's on deck. The Cubs with a run here in the 7th. They're still down a bunch. One and one the count. The Reds bullpen coming in with a 3.68 earned run average, the top 3 in the National League. Much better than the starters. They came in 14th with a 5.10. But they're trying to help Bronson Arroyo get his 14th win tonight. Bray with a career high in appearances. This is his 55th. And he has a sign from Hanigan. The kick in, the pitch, swing, and the miss. He strikes out Darrell Ward with the bases loaded. 7th inning stretch time. Cubs did break the shutout, but they still trail 9-1. Time for the Nissan drive of the game. Jay Bruce with a grand slam in the 4th inning.
We got every bit of it. 391 feet to the opposite field, clearing the bases. Nice job by Angel Guzman in relief today. 2 innings of 1-hit shutout baseball, and he'll give way to right-hander Kevin Hart.
Well, Kevin got called up earlier than the Cubs originally had intended. Looked like he was going to finish out the playoffs with Iowa. But the Cubs had that long extra innings game the other night. Sean Marshall now in the starting rotation, at least this time around. Chad Godin has been unavailable with back issues. So he came up before Wednesday's game and trying to get through the 7th and maybe the 8th here tonight. So here is Jay Bruce. That grand slam was the first of his major league career, which began in late May. Trying to hit another one on that swing. 1 strike. He made his debut on May 27th against the Pirates. Went 3 for 3 with a double, 2 walks, 2 driven in, and scored twice. Also stole a base.
Is that all?
He was batting 1,000 after 1 day in the majors. Rocketed past Mike Fontenot. Kosuke will cut it off. Bruce on his way to second, and he's going to get in. That's a leadoff double for the Reds.
Jay Bruce was Baseball America's minor league player of the year last year, and a lot of people here in Cincinnati felt he should have been on the roster out of spring training, but he's made up for lost time. Good looking young hitter.
One little subtle note. Kevin Hart and Coy Hill, they've worked together a lot this year at the AAA level.
Well, they should know better than to throw that hittable a pitch on an 0-2 count then. I mean, granted, it's an 8-run ball game, and Kevin Hart just in here to get an inning of work, and Coy Hill getting an opportunity to get behind the plate, but that's pretty much universal in baseball. An 0-2 pitch shouldn't be hammered that hard.
0-1 on Holbert Cabrera. The kick and the pitch. Breaking ball outside. Last season, Kevin Hart was the Cubs minor league pitcher of the year. Combined to win 12 games at AA and AAA. Was terrific as a September call-up. 8 appearances, a 0.82 earned run average. That earned him a spot on the postseason roster. Unfortunately, things have not gone smoothly for Kevin in his stints in the majors this year. This is the 4th time he's been up with the Cubs. Little pop up on the right side. Fontenot will grab it. 1 away. Visit the legendary Harry Carey's Italian Steakhouse and Harry Carey's Tavern in Wrigleyville, where Ernie Banks and Ryan Sandberg hang their hats. Call 773-HOLY-COW or visit harrycareys.com today.
Yeah, part of the problems that Kevin Hart had earlier this season, number 1, he gave up a lot of base hits, but number 2, he walked more batters than he struck out. His signature pitch is that cut fastball in the low to mid 90s. When he's commanding that pitch, he can be really, really good. When he's not commanding that pitch is when he gets into a lot of trouble.
Hanigan 1 for 3 with a run. The West Side Rooters Social Club will present the 2008 Rooters Ball. Giovanni Soto involved, and the ball will benefit the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. That's Giovanni's favorite charity. They had the Rooters Ball back in 1908, just before the Cubs last won the World Series. And you can meet Cubs like Giovanni Soto, Aramis Ramirez, Carlos Marmol, Hall of Famer and Rooters chairman Ernie Mr. Cub Banks will be on hand. For more info, visit westsiderooters.com, or you can call 312-595-4554. So that's Thursday, September 18th at 8 p.m. $100 per ticket, and 100% of the proceeds will benefit JDRF. Off the end of the bat, and he taps it foul. Phillies are leading at Shea Stadium in the bottom of the 9th, 3-0. Greg Dobbs with his 7th home run tonight for the Phillies, as they try to get within 2 of the lead in the East. Fouled off to the right. Scoreless in St. Louis. Marlins and the Cardinals now in the 7th inning. Boston with a chance to gain some ground on the Rays in the American League East. Tampa Bay lost at Toronto 6-4, and the Red Sox lead at Texas 7-0 in the 6th. Boston 3.5 out going into play tonight. White Sox are crushing the Angels 7-0 in the bottom of the 5th, and the Twins lead. They're finally back home 6-1 in the 6th over Detroit. Sox lead the AL Central by 1.5 games. As Bob mentioned, later tonight, Arizona's at the Dodgers. Diamondbacks lead the NL West by 1.5. Base hit left center. Jay Bruce will score to make it 10-1.
Ryan Hanigan's second base hit of the ball game, this time driving home a teammate on a little cutter out over the plate. Hanigan, another guy that was recognized in Baseball America, their tools issue this year. He was picked as the best defensive catcher in the International League. Got around a .290 career hitter in the minor leagues. Figures to get every possible chance to win that job.
Former Cub Corey Patterson will bat for Bill Bray. Outside, ball 1.
It's been a long grind for Corey Patterson, but he has his average over that 200 mark, hitting .202 before this at bat here tonight. Been a rough season for Corey,
which has included some time in the minor leagues. Hart has a sign from Hill, and the pitch popped up foul, and that'll be a souvenir. Boy, there are a ton of Cub fans in the ballpark. You see all that blue in the red seats. They haven't had a lot to cheer about, unfortunately. It's kind of a miserable day here in Cincinnati. We didn't see the sun all day. Pretty much rained throughout. We started 17 minutes late, and when we did start, the Reds pounded Ted Lilly early on. 5 runs over just 2 innings. Ted threw just 42 pitches. Outside and a full count, 3-2. Well, we talk so much about guys like Ryan Dempster, Carlos Zambrano, Rich Harden, Ted Lilly, guys who will likely be a part of the postseason rotation. Well, to get out of this slump, the Cubs are going to be relying on their number 5 starter Jason Marquis tomorrow night, and their number 6 starter, so to speak, Sean Marshall, who will pitch on Sunday. It's going to be up to those guys to set the tone the rest of this series. And Sean chatting with Micah Hoffpower. Another check swing by Dickerson, and third base umpire Greg Gibson made the call that time. 2-2. Mentioned the 22-year-old Cueto coming back from elbow problems. He's a strikeout pitcher, 146 over 155 innings. Near the feet of the batter. And it's full 3-2.
Hopefully the Cubs offense will have that patient approach against Cueto tomorrow night. Make him throw a lot of pitches early in the ball game and open up a can of bullpen very early tomorrow.
Been a long day for Lou Piniella. Runner goes on the 3-2, and Hart with back-to-back strikeouts ends the inning. But Ryan Hanigan with an RBI single, making it 10-1 Cincinnati. After the game, stick around for Lowe's Cubs post-game live. Get highlights of all the action and analysis from Dan Plesac. Don't miss Lowe's Cubs post-game live immediately following the game right here on Comcast Sportsnet, fans' best friend. Chris Dickerson moves from center to left to make room for Corey Patterson. Then left-hander Jeremy Affeldt will take over on the mound.
68th appearance of the season for Jeremy Affeldt, leads the Reds pitching staff in that category. He's been good over his last 27 appearances, a 2.78 ERA. And in the month of August, a 1.62. Dusty Baker pulling out all the stops. He's managing this one like it's a close game, playing the matchups.
And Ronnie Cedeno will get his first at bat. After Aramis Ramirez went 0 for 3, Ronnie replaced him. Cubs made wholesale changes in the bottom of the 6th. After Cedeno, it'll be Fontenot and Edmonds. Jim's had the best night of any Cubs batter. He has 2 infield hits, a walk, and the Cubs' lone run. The last time the Cubs lost 6 in a row, end of May into early June of last season. Sky high Patterson. 1 out. Here comes Fontenot.
Crowd of just over 31,000 here tonight. A lot of them Cub fans, as you mentioned an inning ago. A lot of blue hats and shirts in the stands. This is a Friday night in southwestern Ohio. A lot of the Reds fans, I would assume, are at high school football games tonight.
Swing and a miss. Pretty good fastball from Affeldt at 94. 31,213, he announced paid attendance. Well, Cubs fans were hoping this was going to be a nail biter as Affeldt couldn't get it. It's kicked by Phillips. So Fontenot aboard with 1 out. That's a base hit. So all the hits except the Coyhill double for the Cubs have been infield singles.
There's a break right there for Mike Fontenot and the Cubs as well. Brandon Phillips can throw with authority from all different arm angles. We've seen him make that play where he backhands the ball and throws back underneath his left arm to first base, but after it ticked off his glove, he kicked it over to the left side of the infield. It'll go as an infield knock.
Phillips is leading all National League second basemen in fielding percentage. Just 7 errors on the year.
He's got a strong throwing arm, great range, quick hands around the base. Doesn't always do everything the way you would teach a youngster to do at second base, but he gets it done very effectively.
And he'll throw out Edmonds. Fontenot's at second. There are 2 outs. Pledge your allegiance to the Cubs by becoming a member of the Cubs Club, the official online fan club for the Chicago Cubs. Cubs Club members will receive benefits unavailable to other fans, including your very own 2008 membership card, MLB.com's game day audio for the 2008 regular season, and much more. To join today, visit Cubs.com, where baseball is always on. Coy Hill will turn around and bat right-handed. From the left side, he doubled in, the only run to this point for the visitors.
You may notice on this bat, see where that wrap of tape is, right underneath his ring finger and little finger of his right hand. And when he was at the plate earlier batting left-handed, that wrap of tape was clear down near the knob of the bat. He keeps it right underneath the right hand no matter which side of the plate he's batting from. So obviously he has to have some right-handed bats prepared and some left-handed bats prepared.
He didn't contribute a whole lot at the plate last year. He hit just 161, but the Cubs went 17-8 in his starts behind the plate before he was designated for assignment in August. He became expendable on the roster when Henry Blanco came off the DL to back up Jason Kendall. We talk about how things have changed. At one time it was Coy Hill and Rob Bowen. Before that, Michael Barrett was the everyday catcher. As I said, it became Kendall and Blanco. Then it was Soto and Kendall. This year, Soto and Blanco. Now Coy Hill here in September, joining the team as a third catcher. I think the Cubs are hoping that they're going to be pretty set at the #1 spot behind the plate for many years to come with Giovanni Soto.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. But that being said, because of the nature of the position, you always have to have some prospects lined up. You know, you're one foul tip away from needing help behind the plate. That's just the nature of the game, the nature of that position. But certainly if he's able to avoid any kind of serious injury, Giovanni Soto looks like he's the real deal.
And along those lines, your son Michael finished up his first pro season, and he finished the year in the 300s. Hit his first pro home run the other night. Base hit to right. Fontenot is going to be sent. Bruce had some trouble with it out in right. Coy Hill 2 for 2. And again, it's coming in a blowout. He will not get an RBI on that base hit, as Bruce will be charged with an error. But you're really happy for Coy Hill. He's batted from both sides of the plate tonight. He's 2 for 2, coming off that offseason injury.
Put together 2 real nice at bats. The ball he drove into the gap in left center as a left-handed hitter, and that time going the other way as a right-handed hitter. And even though he won't get credit for an RBI because of the Jay Bruce error, Cubs get another run.
Kosuke was late on that swing. 1 strike. So just a couple of days of R&R before instructional league. Huh?
Yeah. Went back to Vegas to work out there at his former school, UNLV, and see some friends, and then back to Mesa, Arizona in about a week to start instructional ball. And once again, I thanked him a couple times during the season, but thanks to all the host families in Boise, Idaho, including Jim and Linda Lau, that graciously allowed my son Michael to sleep in their guest room and raid their refrigerator on a regular basis. That's something that the Cubs do. I'm not sure other organizations do that for their lower level minor league players. They arrange for them to have housing so they don't have to worry about paying rent and renting furniture and turning on utilities. They can focus everything on playing baseball.
Kosuke swung at it and is now 0 for 4 on the night. The Cubs add a run. It'll be unearned because of the error by Bruce. It's 10-2 to the bottom of the 8th.
From the Comcast Sportsnet studios, it's a Cadillac Sports Update.
Luke Stuckmeyer here. When it's all over, keep it here for Lowe's Cubs post-game live. Then later tonight on the main channel, after our White Sox coverage, it's Land Rover Sports Night. We'll have Cubs and White Sox recaps, plus reaction to Carlos Quentin's broken wrist and the best high school football action on High School Life. But right now, back to Len and Bob in Cincinnati.
Thanks, Luke. Bottom of the 8th, Bob Howry will become the 5th Cubs pitcher to work tonight. And he'll face Jeff Keppinger to start it as the Reds lead this one 10-2.
Bob Howry, a guy looking to turn his season around here in the last 3.5 weeks. Kind of an up and down go for Bob. He's had some good outings. He's had a lot of bad outings.
After Keppinger, Phillips, and then Votto. So tough for a short reliever who's in a slump to work his way out of it. At least for a starter, you can have one, maybe two really bad innings, but you can finish strong. You can work on some things. We've seen Bob on occasion maybe throw a slider a little bit more often, but the bottom line is he's a fastball location pitcher, and he has missed on his location way too much this season. He'd be the first to tell you that. He gets over to first quickly, but Darrell Ward got back there as well and gets the throw from Fontenot. And I also think Bob would be the first to tell you that at this point in his career, it's not like he's going to completely redefine himself, you know, drop down, throw sidearm, something like that. I mean, the bottom line is he's trying to get back to what has made him successful.
And he's changed very little over the course of his career. I mean, since he ended up in the bullpen, since he became a late inning relief pitcher, his MO has been throw that fastball on the outside corner, get ahead in the count, and then keep scooting it out a little bit further, get the hitter to chase pitches off the zone.
Kosuke will make the catch. 2 outs.
But when you miss with that first fastball away, now you're in the hole 1-0. Now you can't afford to scoot it off the strike zone. If anything, you have to scoot it back toward the middle a little bit, and that's when you really become susceptible. But you're right, he has mixed in more sliders. We've seen him come inside with his fastball a little more as of late. But it's not a complete retooling of his delivery or his arsenal or anything like that. Just trying to use his pitches a little differently than he has in the past.
Votto cracks it. Foul. Even the foul balls are creamed. Let's check out the catch. Wow. Is that a barehanded play?
Yeah. Way to go, Dad.
Votto came in hitting .440 over his last 13 games, and he has remained hot. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Looks like he's going to pick up the game-winning RBI in back-to-back games. He won it in the 8th against the Pirates yesterday afternoon. go-ahead RBI single and a 2-run homer in the first inning tonight. The Reds have it trailed. He swings and misses. Howery with an encouraging 1-2 3/8, but the Cubs trail 10-2 as we head to the ninth. Coming schedule right back here on Comcast Sportsnet tomorrow night. Bob and I will take over at 6 o'clock. Then we'll have the second and third games in St. Louis coming up Wednesday and Thursday night as well. Jeremy Affeldt in his second inning of work gave up an unearned run in the 8th. And Reed Johnson is the last position player off the bench. So you had 8 position players in the starting lineup. You had 8 on the bench, and all 16 have now made an appearance. Chris and Dan will have post-game live following the game, so hang around. I think they're dry. They were in the middle of that downpour about 20 minutes before the scheduled first pitch. Dan Plesac was looking for a 10-foot tall blow dryer. Johnson went around. That's a strikeout. Well, he is not happy with Brian Runge's call from first base.
He had every reason to be upset right there. Top of the 9th inning of a 10-2 ball game. Been raining all afternoon. Game started late. It's close enough for Brian Runge.
Soriano takes a strike on the inside corner.
We'll have to assume he's available tomorrow.
It's the 3rd straight strikeout for Affeldt going back to the end of the 8th. So it's up to Ryan Theriot to keep this inning alive. The Cubs trailed right off the bat and really haven't been in it since the first inning. Our producer is Bob Albrecht, our director Dave Turner, our associate producer Tamara Anderson. Called strike, 1-1. Our stage manager in the booth, Janet Diggs. Our technical director, Chuck Jackson. Good to have our tech manager, Mark Harper, on the trip with us. Jim Corno Jr., the executive producer of Cubs baseball here on Comcast Sportsnet. 2 balls and a strike. Thanks to everyone here on our crew in Cincinnati. Many braving the elements early on. Stopped raining early in the ball game, but unfortunately the Cubs haven't been in it. Check swing, he went. Been a lot of check swings here in the late innings, called for strikes. And the Reds fans now encouraging Jeremy Affeldt. The pitch hit foul.
Ontario battling. I'll tell you, this is why he's had the year he's had. He refuses to give away an at bat. even down by 8 runs with 2 outs in the 9th inning. He's up there battling, fouling off tough pitches, hoping that Affeldt will make some kind of a mistake that he can drive into play somewhere.
Another 2-2. That one's bounced foul. The Reds have already now announced tomorrow night's game will be a sellout. Another 2-2 pitch, driven high in the air and very deep. Patterson's back. Warning track. He leaps. He makes the catch. And that's it. Corey stole a home run away with a leaping grab earlier this week against the Pirates. That one I don't think would have been gone, but it would have been extra bases. So he denies Terrio of a hit, and the Reds blow out the Cubs today. Final 10-2. And it would not have been out, but it was a nice grab nonetheless.
Been for extra bases at the very least. Ryan Terrio battling that entire at bat. Finally got a pitch he could hit hard. Unfortunately, hit it to the wrong part of the ballpark.
Chevy player of the game, the starter and winner, Bronson Arroyo, who's won each of his last 4 starts.
Elevated pitch count, but maybe the best we've seen Bronson Arroyo in a long time. Really was commanding that breaking ball at a variety of different speeds. Just about the time the Cubs hitters would start to look for that breaking ball, he'd sneak that 88-mile-an-hour fastball by him for a called strike.
Bob, only 6 Cubs hits tonight. That included 1 double. I mean, Terrio not credited with a hit. He gave it a ride, but 1, 2, 3, 4 infield hits. So they didn't really put a lot of pressure on Bronson Arroyo and the Reds pitching staff.
Well, and once again, you're getting tired of doing this, tipping your cap to the opposing pitcher, but Arroyo was really good tonight.
And so are you, partner, in spite of the result. That'll do it for our game coverage. Stay tuned. Post-game live coming up next. Once again, the final score tonight, the Reds 10, the Cubs 2. And here's to the Padres coming back late, and they have. They've tied it up in Milwaukee. It's 2-2 in the 8th. Our next Cubs telecast will be tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Central Time, right here in Cincinnati. Game 2 of this 3-game series. In-game scoring provided by ScorePad. And now for Bob and our entire crew, this is Len Casper. Stick with us. Chris Bowden and Dan Plesac are up next with Post-Game Live after a short break.
Well, the thought was that 13 wins in the last 14 road games might help the Cubs out, get them out of this 5-game losing streak. Instead, they open this 9-game trip with their 6th defeat in a row, and in one-sided fashion, 10-2 your final. The Reds beating the Cubs here tonight. And welcome to Lowe's Cubs Post-Game Live from the Great American Ballpark. Along with Dan Plesac, I'm Chris Bowden, and yeah, the magic just wasn't there once again tonight. The offensive woes continue, and I think the tone was kind of set early on here. Bronson Arroyo strikes out the side in the 1st inning and actually strikes out 4 of the first 7 Cubs he faces, and Ted Lilly just struggles right from the outset tonight.
You know, this might have been Ted's worst start of the year. He simply didn't have much. His velocity was down. He was 84, 85 miles an hour. Had a difficult time getting anything over for strikes, including his fastball and his off-speed pitches, lasting only 2 innings. It was by far his worst performance of the season, and it's magnified with when you look at now the problems with Rich Harden and Carlos Zambrano. They're going to need some productivity out of these back 3, 4, and 5 starters.
And as we take a little closer look at Ted Lilly's performance on our Feldco pitching recap, it was one of his shortest outings of the season, maybe the shortest, only 2 innings, as he allowed those 4 hits. Also got into some control problems as well, which is something you don't normally see with Ted Lilly. He's put together some quality starts and some extended starts of late, but it all seemed like the Cincinnati team is really a bugaboo of his. He's 0-4 against them this season. On the counter side, Bronson Arroyo just seems to have the Cubs number.
Well, his last two starts, his last start before this one, he threw a lot more fastballs, and it looked like he really kind of crossed the Cub hitters up. They were expecting a lot of breaking balls, and he went back to a little bit more of that style tonight. He threw some fastballs early, but for the most part, he changed his arm angle quite a bit, dropped down through some slow breaking balls, some hard sliders, pitched more like an American League type pitcher, used a lot of his off-speed pitches early, and then once he was getting the Cubs lulled to sleep with the off-speed pitches, he started to go a little bit more to his fastball in the 4th, 5th, and 6th inning, and he had the Cub hitters completely baffled. A lot of check swings, a lot of takes, a lot of poor 0-2, 1-2 swings. He kept them off balance, used his fastball just enough to keep him honest.
Well, and then you run that in combination with the way the offense has been going of late. This is another game where they had just one extra base hit, and in the 6-game losing streak, they have one extra base hit out of those 5 games. And we thought this was a slump-proof Cub lineup because it was so deep from top to bottom. But this is just one of those hiccups that they're running into that you hope doesn't last too much longer.
Well, you know, this really, tonight's game has been what has happened in the last 4 or 5 games. The Cubs have been able at times to get some guys on base. Tonight, that simply when you're down, as much as the Cubs were down early, it's hard to come back when you find yourself down 9-0 early on. It's very difficult to do. But there's a couple of things stick out. They're just not bunching the hits together, getting that big hit. And really what this team has lived and died with all season long has been good, solid, consistent starting pitching. And until they start getting that, the way they're swinging the bats, they're going to have to win a couple of close games to get that good feeling back. You know, you look at where the Cubs are at going into today, 5-game lead. It looks pretty good, but you just don't feel really good about the way they're playing. They're not pitching particularly well, that's starting pitching, and you'd like to see them start to be able to score some more runs. This is a Red pitching staff really that has been beaten up most of the season. Bronson Arroyo has pitched some good games, but for the most part, you come into this with a high 4s ERA. Somebody obviously had been doing some damage against Bronson Arroyo.
And those Reds young hitters continue to do the damage. We'll talk maybe a little bit about Joey Votto later on in the ball game, but once John Lieber came in, this game was still manageable at 5-0, but John Lieber came in and Jay Bruce stepped up and took Lieber deep. This was Lieber's first appearance since coming off the DL, and he hadn't pitched in a major league ball game since early July, I believe, coming back from that foot injury. But these young Reds hitters have something to prove, and they've hit the Cubs pitching fairly well throughout the season.
Well, you're talking about a contrast in 2 teams right now. A Cub team that has a 5-game lead going into tonight, trying to do things right, and you have the Reds right now that are really looking forward to 2009, 2010. They're bringing some young position players up, some young pitchers, and they're a team that's playing loose and playing free and easy. And this is a Cub team right now that sees the finish line and is trying to close the deal. So there is a lot more pressure on a team like the Cubs and a team like Cincinnati. But the bottom line is, up until 5 or 6 days ago, Chris, this was the best team in the National League. Now, there have been some things that have happened with Carlos Zambrano and Rich Hard to make you not feel as good as you did 4 or 5 days ago, but this is still a real good baseball team. Every team goes through these lows. You certainly would like to see them get this turned around and finish the last couple of weeks strong.
Well, we'll go over the Zambrano and Harden situations briefly when we return, but as we go to our first break here on Lowe's Cubs Postgame Live, time for our Pontiac Buick GMC poll question of the night, and that's how many wins will the Cubs finish the regular season with? 91 or fewer. You better hope it's not that, because that's an awfully dry September. 92-95, 96-99, or will they hit the century mark and surpass that? So far, they're 0-4 in September. Again, visit ComcastSportsNet.com. Go to the Cubs page for your vote, and we'll have the results a little bit later on the show here on Lowe's Cubs Postgame Live.
If you missed today's Cubs game, Comcast customers can go to channel 999 and watch Cubs games on Comcast Sportsnet On Demand. Cubs games on Comcast Sportsnet On Demand, only on Comcast, subject to availability.
Time now for our 4 seasons Who's Hot and Who's Not in the Major Leagues over the past week. Chris Dickerson, this Reds kid outfielder, 1 for 4 tonight over the last 7 games, coming in .385, 10 for 26 with 3 homers and 6 runs batted in. Dustin Pedroia has been tearing it up and actually hitting cleanup. Little Dustin for the Boston Red Sox, and doing a pretty good job of it, protecting David Ortiz, if you will. As for who's not, Matt Holliday of the Rockies, believe it or not, Mr. MVP from a year ago, or at least MVP candidate, runner-up. He's gone into a bit of a deep chill for the Rockies, as well as Baltimore Orioles pitcher Jeremy Guthrie. Last couple of starts, he has been roughed up. As we welcome you back here on Lowe's Cubs postgame live from the Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, Chris Bowden and Dan Plesac. Cubs lose it by a score of 10-2. That's 6 losses in a row. And I guess in the who's not category, you can also add the Cubs offense as we take a look at the starting lineup and how they did tonight, and managing just 6 hits once again against Bronson Arroyo and this crew of Cincinnati relievers. Lots of goose eggs there. Jim Edmonds, who had been in a slump, had a couple of infield hits tonight, and that's about the bright spot right there, as a lot of goose eggs, as we said. Alfonso Soriano actually was 0 for 3, I believe, with a couple of walks. 3 strikeouts tonight for Alfonso Soriano, as he remains in a slump as well. As we mentioned, just 6 hits for the Cubs. But they did manage 1 extra base hit, and that was off the bat of Giovanni Soto's replacement in the late innings, as Lou really cleaned up his bench once this game got out of hand. Coy Hill, we've heard his story over the last couple of days since his recall about the near tragedy to his major league career that he had with that bandsaw incident last October working at home. Had his right hand chopped up, lost a couple of fingers, had to have them sewed back on. But what do you know? Coy Hill, this says a lot for perseverance, comes in and delivers that extra base hit, and actually had 2 hits on the evening.
Well, you know, what a story it is, and it has to really make him feel good. I'm sure that there were parts in this past offseason where he was wondering if he was ever going to be able to play again, particularly at a high level, at the major league level, and what a story it's been. And he has to really feel good about himself, and it's a tremendous story about, like you said, about perseverance and fighting his way back. And who knows, you know, he may be an important part going into the postseason, whether he's going to be on the postseason roster or not. You just never know. Particularly the way I think the thing that is the most disappointing now is you're starting to see a lineup wide. This isn't just, you know, the 3, 4, and 5 hitters. You know, the run production, the home run ball has been missing, and they're going to need to fix this, and fix this awfully quick. The starting pitching has been good all season long, with the exception of really the last 4 or 5 games. It hasn't quite been as good as it was all season long, but they're going to need to start putting some runs together and start hitting some home runs, and it needs to start happening really soon.
Angel Guzman also with that Tommy John surgery. He came back with 2 shutout innings tonight. So we take a look at the Reds lineup, and there were a lot of crooked numbers in that particular lineup. And how would you pitch Joey Votto? 8 of his 18 home runs this season against the Cubs.
Well, right now, Chris, it just seems like he's very comfortable. He's getting a lot of fastballs on the outer third of the plate. I'm not so sure that maybe tomorrow or Sunday to send a message to knock him off the plate a little bit. I'm not saying to hit him, but I mean to get him to move his feet. One of the things that hitters like to do when they get up there is they like to feel comfortable. They like to feel set in the batter's box. They get their timing, to get their tempo, to get their rhythm. And you have to do something as a pitcher to disrupt this. For whatever reason, he feels very comfortable hitting off of this Cub pitching staff, and it may be time for more than just 1 or 2 fastballs on the inner half of the plate. Knock him back off the plate and get him moving his feet a little bit and getting a little bit uncomfortable.
We'll see if tomorrow's pitcher can do that, and we'll take a look ahead at tomorrow's pitching matchup. Also have the results of our poll question. That when Lowe's Cubs postgame live from Great American Ballpark continues.
And now it's time for the Stay in the Game Hold Spotlight, brought to you by Just for Men Hair Color.
But before we go to break, here's a look at our Cubs holds leaders. Got to give Carlos Marmol another opportunity to set a single-season club record.
Just as these middle relievers keep their team in the game, you too can stay in the game with Just for Men Hair Color.
Pontiac poll question of the night here on Lowe's Cubs postgame live. That is, how many wins will the Cubs finish the regular season with? And you folks said, 41% of you said 96-99. That would put the Cubs at least an 11-10 finish with 21 games to go. The low amount saying 91 or fewer, and we certainly hope so, because they're at 85 right now. That's right.
The case.
Let's see if Jason Marquis can turn things around tomorrow. He goes against Johnny Cueto. It's a 6 o'clock Central Time start, and Jason Marquis has kind of put the bad second halves behind him over the last couple of years.
He really has pitched better, and with Rich Harden and Carlos Zambrano down for more than likely the next week to 10 days, it's going to be very important for Marquis, Ted Lilly, and Sean Marshall really to step it up. They're really going to start to lean on these guys until they get Harden and Zambrano back. He's been throwing the ball better. player. His one nemesis all season long has been that one inning to keep the minimum dead damage. He seems like he has that one inning where instead of giving up 2 or 3 runs, he gives up 4 or 5 runs. He's pitched some very good baseball lately.
All right, Jason Marquis against Johnny Cueto, who's making his first start since coming back from an elbow strain in late August. We wanted to have you explain what happened to the thing tonight because it didn't work. Must have been the rain.
It didn't work, but tomorrow we're going to break out a new one pregame, the Rally Cap, inside-out cap tomorrow.
All right, for Dan, please.